Hey folks, we are back with another episode of our podcast. I have Mr. Ryan Cessna on here with me, and I brought him on because he is the king of unique and odd at Segrest Inc. here. So Ryan, I know you've been in the industry quite a long time. Fish have been something that's been a part of your life, I think, pretty much since you were a child. So
Yes.
tell me a little bit about, who you are, what you do, and what your role is here at Segrest.
Yeah, absolutely. So, pretty much my background with being in the industry is I started very young at like pet shops and stuff like that. I went from the pet shops to fish farms, and then from fish farm to a coral warehouse. So I've kind of been jumping in, kind of around everything. But I also got midway through at my end of high school years, I went and got a degree. I talked to my one of my agriculture teachers about what I wanted to do, and I could never figure it out. But I've always talked about fish all the time. So she was like, "Well, there's a degree in aquaculture you can get," which I've never even heard of at the time. So I decided to go to college and get a degree in aquaculture, which that led me to a lot of great things in my life, and especially here. And I've been here for about a little over 3 years now. 3 great years. I love it here. So.
Excellent. Now you say fish farms, and coming from Michigan, I had no idea what a fish farm was. I had a picture in my head, So describe to the audience a little bit about what does a fish farm look like? What is it all about?
Well, that's the best thing about fish farms is a lot of them look very different. So the first fish farm I worked at was when I was getting my degree in aquaculture. I was fortunate enough to where I was working at the University of Florida Research Lab, which is actually about 15 minutes from here. So working there, it's different because, of course, they have a lot of big, almost like greenhouses on one side. Then they have about, I can't remember, I think it's like 20 to 25 ponds outside. Now, of course, a research lab is not going to have fish that a regular old, like a fish farm would, a usual fish farm would have. They have arapaima outside, alligator gars, Australian Murray cod, weird, odd things. Which of course started my obsession with very odd fish, especially staining out arapaimas. But then I went to Ron Connor's Tropical Fish Farm, which is one of the bigger fish farms in Florida. They have around 300 outdoor ponds, and they back up to a swamp. But that was the farm that's going to have your ponds that are full of African cichlids and angels and giant danios and a bunch of different tropical fish like that. They would sell to here at Segrest. So we would get all the fish outside. We would seine the ponds, and of course, anyone that doesn't know seining is just pretty much every time you see a big pond full of fish, we're the ones that would take the net, and we would take all the fish out with that net, and then we'd transport them to the building, get them ready to pack and all that stuff, and then ship them off to Segrest.
Excellent, I love it. So to give you an idea, so we grew a little bit from the 16 tanks in Elwin's basement. You can certainly go on our website and read about his story. It's actually quite awesome and quite a story of entrepreneurship. So we have about 250 acres of ponds that we own here at Segrest. So we produce quite a few of our own animals. So what Ryan's talking about is, a piece of that. And then Florida has an absolute rich history of fish farming. So that's certainly a whole nother level of, in depth to the hobby.
Yeah, and especially Aquatica being so different from the fish farms I was explaining. They're almost all indoor, with the big concrete vats. Like Sandy even had that the interview with was it Chris Biggs, I want to say, with the Aquatica showing all like 600 of the vats that they bred all the plecos and the African cichlids and stuff like that. So it just goes to show the variety of what kinds of fish farms there are. It's not just when you think of a fish farm and it's a big pond in the ground, you know what I mean? It can be inside, it can be outside in a greenhouse, so the people, especially in Florida, have found many ways to breed and to raise fish. So it's really cool going to visit.
Definitely. So I know you touched on, why are you a fish person and what led you to this career with your arapaimas and your oddballs obsession. So I think that's a really kind of unique piece of who you are, to be a part of our team. So as far as, what you do at Segrest Inc. here, and, you get to really reach out to customers, and your role is unique in that you are specialized in bringing new customers in, which I think is imperative to bring them into our family of customers and how we get started. So tell the audience a little bit about your experience with bringing new people in.
Yeah, so I got I was lucky enough to be me and a coworker of mine, Becca, we were the first ones at Segrest to have the new position of a new partner coordinator, right? So pretty much what that is for us is we're going to be the ones that will be Pretty much anytime someone submits a request to get set up with us here at Segrest Forms, it'll get sent to either me or her, and then we can go ahead and we can contact them, we can email them, and we'll talk about, exactly what we're going to need to get them set up, different requirements, of course, because, fortunately we can't sell to everybody, so of course they have to meet the specific requirements like a retail store or maintenance accounts that deal with commercial locations and stuff like that. But yeah, we're lucky enough to where we get to set up these new stores and set up even people that have been, in business for 10, 20, 30 years. And like, oh, maybe I want to try Segrest out, so we can get them into the whole Segrest Inc. world as well. So yeah, I pretty much gather their information. I get it sent off to management so they can approve it. Once it's approved, then I can go over all the different, the minimums and the shippings and all the different kind of things that they would need to know how to log into the website. But I'd say one of the best parts too is, helping those new stores get set up and the roles that they would need to play, and either if they want to hire someone, if they don't want to hire someone, what job positions you would want to do, making sure they're staying on top of the maintenance for the fish tanks, or they're, not overloading the fish tanks at one time. Because, some pet stores, whenever they get their fish department set up, what's the first thing they want to do? They want to just load the whole tank full of a bunch of fish, but we kind of have to pump the brakes a little bit and kind of, explain to them what the best way of doing it is. Starting it very slowly, getting some smaller live bears in there to make sure the tanks are cycled well. And once they get that going, then we can start introducing the other fish, So definitely an awesome job though.
Definitely. And I think something that's unique is, as a store, hobbyists may not know this, as a store, you get set up with a sales rep here, and that's your sales rep.
Yeah.
So every time you call in, you're going to talk to Ryan if that's your rep that you have set up with, or many of the other staff we have here at Segrest Inc. And really, you build a bond. A lot of our sales reps have stores that have been with them a decade or two. So you almost grow with the stores that are out there, and it's unique when we have the stores that are the legendary stores that have been around for several decades.
Mm-hmm. The ones you see on Facebook and everything all over the place. Yeah, and that's a good point too. You bring up. Because in my position, after I get people set up, I'll keep them for about a month, maybe a little bit longer. I just want to make sure they're in the groove of everything. They understand how it all works. And then what I would do is I would transfer them over to one of the senior sales reps, and we're pretty much all a big family back there in the sales office, so we all know each other. We all know who likes what, this guy's a saltwater guy. This guy's he loves plecos, that kind of thing, So whenever I'm passing these customers off, I'm building kind of this a relationship with them to where I'm figuring out exactly what they're into, what they're wanting, how they are as a character. And then I can give them to the, transfer them over to the sales reps I feel would best fit their needs, so that way I can keep they can grow a bond and they can just keep going and flourishing from there, So that's awesome. Exciting to do.
And for you hobbyists out there, that benefits you, because now if you've got a Pleco Crazy store with a Pleco Crazy rep, yes. It's a beautiful thing.
Beneficial for everybody.
Everybody's happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with the oddball plecos that we've been getting recently too.
I'm a sucker for those.
My phone is loaded with photos.
So part of that, I know when you go out to the buildings, and it's when you talk oddball fish and hobbyists talk about oddball fish, yes, there's the cool colors and unique features, but part of it's behavior. What are some of the unique behaviors that you find out there that, even some of the nanofish you didn't realize just have cool behaviors? And that's part of it.
It's a really good question. I know that there's a few, like archerfish, right? Those ones are notorious for spitting out of the water, and I've always wanted to have a setup with archerfish. I've seen some tanks where they have, maybe like a 75-gallon long or something like that. And they have a little bit of the top portion of the tank that's, not full all the way. They have vines going across it and stuff like that. So you can see the archers actually do what they do in the wild, But another cool thing, like to visually watch, is like splash tetras, right? Splash tetras will actually lay their eggs outside of the water and splash them to keep them moist. And then the fish will hatch outside of the water too, So there's a lot of cool, unique fish that you would know, you wouldn't even know about. I mean, I've sold splash tetras for a few years before I even knew that they did that, why they were called splash tetras, So that's one of the unique and fun things about talking with different customers. Even though I'm a sales rep at Segrest or a new partner coordinator, I still learn things every day from people. And that's one of the best parts. So.
Well, I know one of your favorite things is talking to your customers about the fish. And one of my favorite things when I worked in sales was to hear the reaction on the other end of the phone. We're all just jazzed about something we see in the buildings about our million fish.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Some of your favorite reactions you get from your stores when you're just both excited about this animal?
Honestly, I would say probably one of my favorite reactions to get is whenever the owner of the store is like, I loved it so much, I had to take it home. Because that's not all of them want to do that. Usually you'll hear like, oh, I'm going to wait till the end of the week and we'll see if it's still there, and then I'll maybe take it. No, he was like, I sent him some Louis Lau catfish or Lau Laus, and he was like, oh my God, these things came in amazing. He's like, I took one home, my employees took one home, and then the other two sold as soon as before they even were in the tank. So I love hearing stuff like that. But I would say probably one of the more interesting things is I had a customer up in Utah, the waterfront. They did an unboxing video, and it was pretty much like a recording of them opening up each box, taking the fish out. It was great shipment, so it made it even better. The fish all looked amazing. They showed after shots of like the jaguar catfish. They took it out, and they showed a shot of it in the tank. And like the beautiful gold stripe that went down the side of them, So that was definitely a cool one, watching them post this video of them unboxing like a 4 or 5 box Segrest order with just oddball fish and just really cool stuff. So that was a really unique experience that I had, at least. So
that's awesome. And then we get to see them in customers' tanks on the hobby front. So it really kind of brings it full circle.
Oh, absolutely.
And we do a lot of vetting our vendors. We audit our vendors. Our supply chains are heavily watched over as far as when we bring fish in. So these animals really, we kind of know from the beginning, to the full end. So it's neat to see these animals go full circle because we're all hobbyists at heart. So it's kind of like
absolutely. And then, especially with the vendor thing, like not only we have great vendors, but one of the better parts with having the great vendors is also having a great buyer that purchases from other vendors, and then of course the lab staff that we have here that's able to see them when they land, see how they are, see if there's any health issues, anything that needs to be attended to medication wise. So our buyer will go out there and make sure that we're getting the right stuff. That way, we know that even though we had it come in on an order, we want to make sure, especially like if it's a Louis Lau catfish or Lau Lau, that it's the right fish, because of course with juvenile catfish, there's so many that look so similar, So we want to make sure that we get them like a second eye on them, make sure we identify them, make sure we're selling the right stuff too. So that makes it, 10 times better that, I know that I'm sending quality fish, the right fish, everything to the customers,
Absolutely.
So.
Definitely. Now I'm guessing, if the audience was participating in this, they would ask, what do you have? What are your wishes, wants, bucket list? I know eels are one of your big favorite things.
Oh yeah,
in your house.
Love oddball eels. Yeah, that's actually one thing me and my wife have that we share in common is our love for oddball eels and stuff like that. Like I remember the first time I picked up the Hawaiian Dorfeel from Segrest, probably like one of the first things I bought. Is whenever I was probably like a few months into working at Segrest, I see these bags come in with these little small Hawaiian Dorfeels. I was like, I'm taking that home. She's gonna love it. But there's so many things that I wish I could have, like a blueface angel, a Pelini grouper, a Fu Manchu lionfish, just on the saltwater side. I'd love to have a tank that I could just set up and throw some of those guys in there. But I love freshwater tanks too. I have a majority of like 4 saltwater tanks or something at the house. And I have one freshwater tank at the house, but and I did make it a point to have some freshwater tanks at my desk at Segrest. So that way I could, I set up a shrimp tank, my first shrimp tank with neocardinias. I have some of those yellow fire shrimp, which I absolutely love. But if I had like a dream fish, it would probably be some really cool shrimp that I could, have and breed in that little desk tank that I have. So that'd probably be what I'm looking at. And we do get a lot of, we don't just get the standard, assorted neocardinias or the same cherries and blue velvets all the time. Every once in a while, we'll get some nice, like red crystals or Silawasi shrimps and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's always really interesting to see the cool little unique shrimps that we get into. Definitely an overlooked category for sure.
Definitely. And certainly, oddball and rare and unique doesn't mean difficult to take care of, and sometimes it does, so certainly there are animals that, really are just kind of the, off the cuff, and then there's the animals that really do need a lot of, specialized setup, specialized habitats. So as hobbyists listening, don't be afraid to research and find out, what do you have that's going to work in your water and in your aquarium.
And utilize your local fish storage for that too. They're full of information. But there are quite a few nice, some may categorize them as oddballs, some might not. But one thing I would certainly throw out there, for a unique fish that's not necessarily too difficult to take care of is like, your smaller rainbows, dwarf rainbows, like your Gertrudeararus, your signifers, furcatas, threadfins, they're not necessarily a difficult fish to take care of. If you have a nice planted tank at your house with some driftwood, some really nice plants, maybe a pair of angelfish, rainbows, any other kind of thing like that. They're always a great addition to them, as long as they have good coverage in the plants, a lot of rock structure, driftwood, whatever, you have in that tank. I would say dwarf rainbows make a great addition to a lot of tanks, for even those people that can't have a tank that has a bunch of Bosemannys or Madagascars, goiter rivers. The larger rainbows, you can always have a small tank. And we all know just by looking in those magazines that we send out to all the stores, nano tanks are really hot right now. So a lot of people are getting set up with the rasboras, the small tanks, the plants, aquascaping is another big thing. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I would, I even set up another tank at my desk with it was a little 15 or 20 gallon tank. I put a bunch of plants in there, got some of the bonsai wood that we have that we've been selling to a lot of stores, which have been going great, which I would recommend a lot of people look at those bonsai woods or even ask your local fish store about it, because those are awesome. But yeah, I made it a dwarf rainbow tank. I put a bunch of maybe 6 Gertrude aurora rainbows in there, and a few furcatas and whatnot. So yeah, I love that tank now. I use those tanks at my desk to kind of experiment and find out what is cool. How do you take care of these things? What do they look like when they mature and they color up? Like those Gertrudes for sure, male Gertrude aurorus. You might not see them all the time at stores, but when you do and you see a nice male, they're beautiful fish. So
absolutely. And I get this question a lot. I work with our social media brands. How do I get this fish? Or we'll post a picture in the hobbyist like you guys and like us. How do I get that? And so we don't sell directly to the hobby for a myriad of reasons. And we have a really nice long written article on our website if you'd like to check that out. But it really comes down to, we want those local stores, your local store near you, to continue to be the inspiration, to continue being the experience. So as a hobbyist, reach out to them. A lot of that's in special order programs. And the really neat thing we have set up here, and Ryan can attest to this, if a store requests an animal, that doesn't mean they have to purchase the animal. What that does is it alerts Ryan. It alerts our buyers that someone is looking for the animal. And then when we bring the animal in, we all get emails. We know the animal's here and ready to go. And then your local fish store is contacted.
And I'm glad you pointed out, too, that you don't have to buy that fish. If we put in a request, if you come to me and say, Ryan, I'm looking for some alligator gars, would you mind throwing a request down for me? I'll put that request in. As soon as we get some in, if you get the email saying, hey, the alligator gars you guys just requested are in stock, you don't need to buy that. It's not that, it's saying, hey, they're here for you, you need to buy them. It's simply just saying, hey, we got the fish, I know you wanted some, we got some in. So if you can't take them at that time, that's fine. I'm sure we can get them another time. If you did want them, you now know that we have the fish you wanted, and that you can translate that to your customer as well. But I highly encourage going to the local fish stores near you, sending, whatever it is that you may want, even if it's something out there. Tank raised tiger serums that I posted on Facebook. You know what I mean? You go to them and ask for it, and branching out a little bit, finding a store that's super cool that you've never been to, and going there and seeing what they can do for you. But yeah, I love getting requests, because that's one of the things that makes Segrest's list so large. With the oddball fish, is people requesting or gulper catfish or the lau-laus or different kinds of pikes, like the zebra pikes that we have out there, the Maturo stingrays. So those requests, I love those, even if it's something we've never had before. Our buyer, he's more than happy to look for it, ask vendors for it. So we'll go a long way, even if it's for any hobbyist that goes to a store and asks for a fish, we'd go a long ways to find that fish for him.
Absolutely. And sometimes what we do a sustainable wild collection. And so sometimes these animals are seasonal, and sometimes this animal, is only available for a very short period of time, and COVID kind of shifted some of our shipping abilities as far as making sure the animals had a safe transit. And really it comes down to time frames. Yeah. So with fewer flights and fewer availabilities, some of the availability that was last year changed, and we seem to be getting back to, the normal availability as much as we can.
As much as we can, for sure. There's still a few places we've been having some issues getting stuff from, but it's more or less like what you were saying, the flight times. We want to make sure that even if there is a flight that's coming to us that has the stuff that we need, we want it to make sure it's not a 72-hour or longer flight. We want to make sure it's in enough time that we are comfortable getting the fish, that we've had luck in the past doing,
Absolutely. So. Well, perfect. I think we've kind of covered lots of oddball things. I hope our hobbyists out there, you guys had a little fun listening to Ryan's role here and getting excited about those oddballs, and reaching out to your local pet store and finding out what's out there, because right now the industry, everybody's just super excited with people staying home more. Your fish tanks are part of your solitude and part of your you're healing and everything connection to nature out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's great how many fish stores have adapted to what the new normal is with curbside pickups and stuff like that, posting videos on Facebook. I mean, social media is that's a tool I recommend every fish store using. So especially now, with you might not be able to have a heavy foot traffic in your store because of COVID, or if you are only doing curbside pickup, you can still post videos on Facebook or Instagram, whatever you're using, just to show everyone what you got, so that way you can still get those oddball fish. Say, look at this zebra pike that I just got, who wants it? Are the cool plecos that we've been getting in. So like leopard frog plecos, this one that people go nuts about. Gold nuggets, it's another one. So I mean, there's a lot of really interesting stuff that we get all the time. Not just from one month to the next. I mean, sometimes it's weekly. We're getting these just insane shipments of crazy stuff. We're still getting things that I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like a freshwater frogfish. I'm like, I see those at saltwater all the time. Never saw one in freshwater, so it blows my mind sometimes, the things that we get, so.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us. Hope your hobbies are inspired out there. We appreciate you having you on. And so grab a friend, get out to your local fish store, get a fish tank, and get started.
Request some fish.
Absolutely. All right. Take care.
All right. Thank you, guys.